Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 6 of season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Among Us Hide. And generally speaking, I felt this was a pretty solid episode. There's a really great twist in it that I did not see coming. And there's also just a lot of good stuff going on with pretty much everybody. So let's just kind of get right into things. So let's just sort of get the big one out of the way. I totally did not see Garner being Lash. Now, again, Lash is a character from the comics, but not one that I know very well. I think I've only ever read 2 comics that he was in, and that was some of his really early appearances where it was just like show up, say, "Oh, hey, new person with inhuman powers, you're not worthy of your powers, die." So, I mean, if Lash has an established identity in the comics, I'm not aware of it. But again, I've not been reading a huge amount of Marvel lately, outside of Miss Marvel and Spider-Man. Although I was reading Silk, which was quite good, quite good. But anywho, now over the course of the episode, I started thinking like, well, wait a minute, what if the person who has this, like Lass has obviously has insider information, like Scott Daisy figures that out. I'm like, well, okay, what if he's not getting this insider information from the ATCU? What if he's getting it from Shield? So I started thinking, well, okay, so who is it? Who could it be on the Shield team? But I only like really thought about that for a minute before I just kind of got back into paying attention to what was happening in the episode. So I totally did not see this coming. But it does kind of make a lot of sense because Garner's been very reluctant about basically benching anybody Inhuman that Shield has gotten their hands on. Being a Shield consultant, he would have access to a lot of information, at least enough to lead him to somebody like Fry, who could help him on the sly, where he would have much less chance of being caught. And if I remember correctly, in the past, it was sort of implied that the whole issue of having kids was a big deal in what led to him and May getting divorced. Now, I don't think they ever explicitly spelled that out, or if they did, maybe I'm not remembering it correctly. But I was sort of left with the impression that it was May who didn't want to have children and Garner did. But if that wasn't the case, maybe Garner didn't want to have children because he realized there was a strong possibility that if he knew he was inhuman, which it seems like he did, that they would inherit some sort of inhuman abilities from him, which puts a huge and totally different spin on what we thought we knew about his and May's relationship. And even then they were together, and it was never really clear why them getting back together stopped, or at least I didn't pick up on it. So, if, well, okay, I don't want to do a huge amount of speculation here, but yeah, that was a heck of a twist. So let's just kind of go through what's going on with everybody else. Werner, it's a little hard not to feel bad for Werner here. He really did he really probably would have succeeded in that mission if it hadn't turned out that Garner was an Inhuman. So him kind of getting tortured, it's like, this really isn't actually his fault. He even gets turned on by this guy, Gideon, I believe was his name, who he saw as sort of a father figure. It's not even clear if he's still alive at the end of the episode. I remember he was there babbling at May. I was like, May, I know he's a bad guy, but if you want to get information out of this guy, you're really going to need to get him to a doctor. But, yeah. And now what's also interesting is the way this sort of plays out on the Hydra side of thing. Ward is obviously pretty pissed about Hunter, shooting him. I mean, he did catch one in like was the shoulder or the ribs or something. And I like how his henchman even defends it. It's like, hey man, I followed protocol. But I really like how he even sort of plays it like, either way, Werner still had some use, but now it's like gank the guy. And then there's the whole bit with this older guy Gideon, who's from Strucker's generation of Hydra, sort of comes in there and says like, okay, here's Werner, just don't forget who helped you out here. So it does show that Ward is actually having success in kind of getting a little bit of the old guard in Hydra on his side. And that just sort of serves to really reinforce that Ward is succeeding in taking over as basically the new head of Hydra. And I really like that speech he gave about, Hydra as sort of being a more stripped down, back to basics, less ridiculous organization. I mean, that's kind of was a bit of the problem, is that Hydra got bloated and was just trying to do too much crazy stuff. But, a leaner, meaner, more stripped down Hydra, that I can genuinely read as being a formidable threat. And yeah, this episode was not an episode that was kind to Hunter. I mean, we even see him sort of talk when he's talking with Fitz. One, because nobody else seems to want to talk to him, and then he goes and says like, "Hey, Fitz, you do realize if you just leave this guy stuck on this planet, you totally have a better shot of getting in Simmons' pants, right?" And Fitz basically tells him to F off. Points to Fitz on that, because no doubt about it, Hunter was being a serious shithead there. Then he goes and sort of inserts himself onto the mission with Mac and Daisy. Almost screws that up royally, but does kind of redeem himself a little bit with one good idea there at the end. Oh, and he also gets a really great and very well-deserved chewing out from Coulson and May. I mean, man, considering what he did, Hunter's lucky that his legs still work. And I'm pretty sure that's probably due to no small part the fact that May likes Bobby a lot. Enough to go in there and basically kick her butt, or basically start fighting her to prove, like, hey, stop feeling sorry for yourself, get back out in the field. Violence is a little too much May's option of choice. And, I've kind of come down on her as sort of being way too aggressive in situations where it really doesn't call for it. But she does have a fair point that this time around, this was what Bobby needed to sort of really get herself back out there in the field. And it's good to see that. It was good to see Bobby go out there and, take down Ward's right-hand guy and really see that, yeah, she's back. She's a little damaged, but she's still got what it takes. It takes more than a couple of bullets to the chest to put down Mockingbird. And I really wish they would sort of refer to her like that a little bit more. That's a cool code name. But I don't know. They got that new Hunger Games movie coming out pretty soon, and maybe they don't want to step on that, or whatever. Or this is S.H.I.E.L.D. They don't. It's not really necessary. I don't know. I suppose I'm just a little, kind of pumped for Mockingbird right now in the comics because she's a co-star in the Spider-Man book. She's actually basically Peter Parker finally turned himself into a successful businessman a la Tony Stark, and now Spider-Man and Mockingbird are his bodyguards. It's really pretty darn cool. It's a very huge shakeup of, the traditional Spider-Man Peter Parker life, but it's really fun and it's really interesting. I really, really do enjoy Dan Slott's Spider-Man comics. But anyway, kind of getting back to things. Let's see. Yeah, Coulson and Rosalind. It is kind of fun to sort of see. At this point, these two are just basically openly flirting with each other, and even acknowledge this on some level. I'm still a little weirded out by that whole situation with her apartment. Just sort of like, because I do think Coulson had a point, that like, hey, you've got this baseball bat signed by all these players here. Okay, either that was a huge coincidence or Rosalind really was buttering him up. Especially, and that whole thing with like, oh, hey, here's fast food from your favorite place. Again, there's no way that was not a buttering up situation. But the interplay between those two continues to be really fun. And I liked when they go to the facility and we really kind of have Rosalind spell out her view on these things. And it's actually rather reminiscent of the Joss Whedon X-Men comics, where Kavita Rao sort of said that mutants are people with a disease and that we can cure them. Well, okay, you can't really have, for legal reasons, X-Men and mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At least not yet. I think they're working on the rights, getting them back, or they got them. I don't know. I can't keep track of it. It's all this weird nonsense with Fox. But anyway, this is very reminiscent of that. And her pitch actually sounds reasonable, but well, what if these people don't want to be cured? And it while some of these people probably were genuinely presenting a danger to people, were all of them? What about people who had gained inhuman powers and were just living their life that fell into the hands of the ATCU? They weren't hurting anybody. And suddenly it's like, oh, we're basically going to put you in a medically induced coma and do stuff to mess with your genetic structure again without your consent for the greater good. I mean, that's pretty easily BS. And I like how Sky Daisy is just really upset about this whole situation. And this is this is stuff that is totally right out of comics. We've seen things like this um, right in the comics. So points to the show for really digging in there and going with the themes from the show. I mean, from the comics. I also really like that Daisy kind of was going out there and really we're seeing more of her as a field leader. And sorry, I'm a little distracted. Dropbox keeps popping up this file. Like, yes, I know that file has been updated. I don't want to deal with it right now. I'm busy. I just annoys the hell out of me when I get a pop up on my computer when I'm making these things. But yeah, I mean, one of the big things this time around has been the whole secret warrior building towards secret warriors, and obviously Daisy is the perfect person to lead them. So and so this is kind of a way of establishing that when that time comes, she has the chops to handle that. I do kind of wish that we get back to seeing Joey again. He's really been off on the sidelines for basically like 5 episodes, and I think we kind of need to touch base with him, just so that the regular viewers don't forget who he is. But yeah, I think that kind of covers everything that I had to say about this episode. Oh yeah, May found out her husband was Lash. That's a kick in the jimmies. I don't know really more what I can say than that. It's like, wow, sucks to be May. But yeah, I am very interested to see what's going to happen next episode. It's actually not going to be that long until Jessica Jones drops, and I'm kind of curious as to whether or not we'll see any references to what happened on that. It happens on that show on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this year. I'm still kind of jonesing for like at least a mention of Daredevil or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.